there for us in Amman. Joining me now is Mohamad Elmasry, professor at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. So a very fast-moving situation this morning with the latest line that we are hearing. Again, just to stress, this is according to the Israeli army, that Hassan Nasrallah has been killed in their latest strike in Beirut. We've not heard anything yet from Hezbollah. It's been radio silence from them. What do you make of what's happened over the last few hours?
You know, I think as a previous guest said, the fact that Hezbollah has not said anything yet is a pretty clear indication that what Israel is saying is accurate, that they've eliminated Hassan Nasrallah. I think that if he were still alive, Hezbollah would have released a statement to that effect and provided evidence. So it's a major setback for sure for Hezbollah, as the other guests you've had on who are experts on Hezbollah and security studies and military studies. And I'm not per se an expert in those areas, but certainly this is a major setback. But I think it's important to underscore what others have mentioned, and that is that this does not represent the defeat of Hezbollah or the end of Hezbollah in any way. As others have noted, Hassan Nasrallah himself came to be the leader of Hezbollah after his predecessor was assassinated. So as one European diplomat said, I was just reading the Israeli media, I was looking at the Times of Israel, and they interviewed a European diplomat, and he said, you kill one, and they replace him with another. And that's very much the attitude in diplomatic circles, and I think political science circles, that it's going to take time for Hezbollah to regroup and reorganize, but that this is certainly not the end of Hezbollah. In fact, what ends up happening after assassinations like this and after acts of aggression like the kind that we've seen over the past 10 days or so is that resistance movements grow in strength over time. So I do think it's important to kind of zoom out. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I was happy to see that some of your correspondents were speaking to this, is this idea of the Dahiya doctrine, which is a very well-known Israeli military doctrine, named, interestingly, after this suburb of Beirut that's been targeted over these past 10 days or so. And so what I want to say here is that it's not simply Israel's goal to eliminate Hezbollah leadership or even, degrade Hezbollah or whatever phrasing we want to use. It is their goal to punish civilians. That is the Dahiya doctrine. It's been enacted here quite clearly, and it's been enacted for the past year in Gaza. This idea that Israel does not intentionally target civilians or that they are using precision strikes, all of this is nonsense. According to Israeli media, Israel explicitly targets civilian areas. They have a military objective in doing that. They believe that if they kill large numbers of civilians, they will, quote, thin out the population, which is the phrasing that Netanyahu used previously. But also, more importantly, they will scare everyone else away from their leadership. In other words, they will cause Lebanese to turn away from Hezbollah or Palestinians to turn away from Hamas, and that will represent a victory for Israel. So I think that's important to call to mind.
Do you think, Mohamad, at any point in time, there will be some legal price that Israel will have to pay for this indiscriminate bombing? As you say, these massive bombs, we don't know exactly what kind of bombs, but we know they were massive, enough to create craters in the ground. We still don't know the exact figure of how many people have lost their lives, but there will definitely be a large number of people have lost their lives. Ordinary citizens, Lebanese citizens, a sovereign country. How is this okay? I literally have no words really left to describe how Israel feels that it is able to do this on the justification of killing one leader.
Right. I mean, it reminds me of Gaza because in the context of Gaza, Israel came up with what they call the 100-to-1 ratio. And this was published in Israeli media, right? So this is not something that I'm just sort of making up or talking about, conspiracy theories. This is published and documented in Israel. The 100-to-1 ratio says that if Israel gets word, gets intelligence that there is a single high-level commander in an area, it is prepared to kill 100 ordinary civilians, women, children. This is a clear violation of international law, and specifically it's a contradiction or a violation of the principles of proportionality and distinction. So these are grave crimes. Your question about whether or not Israel is going to pay a price ultimately is a question about the world order. Okay, and I don't have a crystal ball, but right now, as things stand, the United States effectively is the only world superpower and the world's only policeman, so to speak. They can control matters through the United Nations. They've set that up very intricately at the Security Council. They have veto power. Do I think that Israel will ultimately be found guilty of genocide at the International Court of Justice? I do, and I think there's a consensus now among experts that that will be the case, perhaps in the next few years. However, the question of whether or not that will actually have an impact, again, goes back to this world order. Will the United States, will European powers, for that matter, do anything to help enforce these rulings that may come down the pipeline? Even the arrest warrants that will likely be issued for Netanyahu, the prime minister, and Gallant, the defense minister. Will European powers and will the United States enforce them? Will they actually arrest these leaders if they travel to their countries? Those are the big questions, and I have my doubts. So I wish I could give a more concrete response, but I don't have a crystal ball.
Okay, Mohamad Elmasry, professor at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Okay, let's go now.